Done right, AI will actually make us more human. It handles the busy work and surfaces real-time insights, so GTM teams can focus on what really drives revenue, building relationships, solving real problems, and creating long-term customer value. That's a quote from Roderick Jefferson and a sneak peek at today's episode. Hi there, I'm Kerry Curran, revenue growth consultant, industry analyst, and host of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast. Every episode, I sit down with top experts to bring you actionable strategies that drive real results. So if you're serious about business growth, find us in your favorite podcast directory, hit subscribe, and start crushing your competition today. In this episode, titled AI plus EQ plus GTM, the new growth equation for B2B leaders, I sit down with industry leader, keynote speaker, author, and enablement powerhouse, Roderick Jefferson, to unpack the modern formula for revenue growth. AI plus EQ plus GTM. We discuss why traditional sales enablement isn't enough in today's landscape, and how true go-to-market success requires cross-functional marketing, sales, and customer success alignment, as well as emotional intelligence and smart technology integration. So whether you're a CRO, CMO, or GTM leader looking to scale smarter, this episode is packed with real-world insights and actionable strategies to align your teams and drive lasting growth. Be sure to listen until the end, where Roderick shares expert tips for building your AI-powered revenue engine today. So if you're serious about long-term revenue growth, it's time to get serious about AI, EQ, and GTM. Let's go. So welcome, Roderick. Please introduce yourself and share your background and expertise.
Hey, Kerry. First of all, thanks so much for having me on. I am really excited. I've been looking forward to this one all day. So thanks again. I'm Roderick Jefferson. I'm the CEO of Roderick Jefferson and Associates. We are a fractional sales enablement, a fractional enablement company. And we focus on helping out kind of small to medium-sized businesses, that 10 to 100 million space that needs help, whether it be onboarding, continuing education, coaching, and I'm also a keynote speaker and I am an author as well. But I started out in my career as a sales guy. Started out at AT&T years ago. I was a BDR, did well, got promoted to AE, went to President's Club a couple of times, and then what do you know? Promoted to sales leader. And Kerry, I turned it down because I realized, and I know they thought I was crazy. But two things. One, I realized I love the process of selling more than I did taking down big deals. Mm-hmm. And secondly, oddly enough, I was not coin operated. I actually did it because I loved what I was doing, and it gave me a chance to interact with people and do things like we're doing today of having a conversation.
I love that. And I love your background and expertise. As Roderick, you mentioned, you do a lot of keynotes, and that's where I met you. You were a keynote speaker at B2B MX West in Scottsdale last month. And I also have one of your books here that I've been able to dive into.
God, that was last month. It feels like it was just last week. Where's time going?
I know. It's this year is flying by. Today's the first day of spring.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I appreciate your background and experience and for so many reasons. One is we talked before the show is my dad was in sales at AT&T for probably 20 years, paid for my entire education and everything. And we're just comparing notes to that era.
Thank you, AT&T.
Yeah. We're comparing notes to that era of innovation and where, what we were learning back then. But so much of what you talked about on stage and what you have in the book is near and dear to my heart, as my background of, building integrated marketing to sales infrastructure and strengthening that to drive more revenue growth. So very excited to kind of talk to you and hear more about what you're seeing and hearing. So I want to hear kind of what you're talking to so many brands, marketers, like what's hot, like what are you hearing? What is the buzz? What do we need to know these days?
There's a couple of things. The obvious is AI, but I will add on another piece. I think it's more about AI plus EQ plus IQ. And
Mhm.
without any of those together, you will not be successful. And the
Yeah.
other thing I keep hearing is the same old problem that we've always had, Carrie, and that is, why is there such a disconnect between
Mhm.
sales and marketing? And as an
Right.
enablement guy, it pains me because for 30 years in corporate, I've been trying to figure that out as well. Right. And I think we're starting to get closer towards alignment now. And
Mhm.
thank you, AI, for finally stepping in and being smarter than all of us. Right.
Mhm.
But it's still a long way to go. And I think
Yeah.
a part of that is because we're still making decisions in silos rather than
Mhm.
trying to get it together. And that's why I love, and I'm also one of the champions of getting away from sales enablement. I know I wrote the book on sales enablement. I get that. But I don't think it's about that anymore. And I think the
Mhm.
problem with that now in hindsight is it's so myopic to just focus on sales because
Yep.
now it's literally about go to market, right?
Mhm.
How do I bring in HR, marketing, product marketing, engineering, sales, and enablement all to the same table? And
Mhm.
now we start talking about the entire buyer's journey versus talking about the sales motions, sales process, selling motions, and trying to shoehorn our prospects and customers into that. Instead, step back and let's put that thing on its ear, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
instead of doing that, let's say, how do they buy? Who buys? Are there buying committees? Yes, there are. How many people are involved in it? Who do you need to talk to? And not just about your ICP, right? That to me is just the tip of the iceberg that goes very deep under the water.
Yeah, no, I definitely I hear you so much there because going back to even when you said why you loved your sales roles early in your career because it's about helping people and it's I've
Absolutely.
always also taken the approach of like what are their business challenges and what do I have in my arsenal or portfolio that can solve them. And in your keynote you said I want sales to stop selling and start helping, but you can't do that if you're not partnering with marketing to really learn and message around the outcomes and that you drive or the pain points that you're solving.
Absolutely. I think there's a couple of things to that as well. So let's kind of peel that onion. First of
Hmm.
all, around the helping versus selling, I'd say that's why we have spam filters on phones now,
Yeah.
right? Nobody wants to be sold to. And
Right.
that's why no one goes to a car lot anymore because we all know what's going to happen. They're going
Hmm.
to talk at you, they're going to try and upsell you, they're going to put you in something that you don't really need or want. You're going to have buyer's regret and remorse. You're going to not enjoy the hard fruit, the hard work you put in for the fruit of your labor of getting that piece. Now,
Hmm.
let's take that same mindset and apply it to corporate and to entrepreneurship.
Yep.
If you go out and you, first of all, if you're doing all the talking, something's really wrong, right? Because a lot of people ask questions to move the sales forward instead of asking questions to really be inquisitive and curious to find out more, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Then let's take it a step further. If marketing works in a silo, and let's say you're building out messaging and positioning, if you don't bring sales in, first of all, they're not going to use it. Newsflash, right? And secondly, it's only going to hit from the lenses of marketing. If you come together, you say, hey, tell me the top 3 or 5 things that you're hearing over and over and over. Let's work collaboratively and cohesively to now solve that. And then the third piece is let's stop going out there trying to find, deliver, manufacture pain because it's not always
Right.
about pain.
Right.
Sometimes it's about increasing productivity and efficiency.
Right.
Other
Right.
times it's about pain. And then the final
Hmm.
piece is if it is pain, now you get to play doctor for a moment. And what I mean by that, Gary, is do you need an Advil, a Vicodin, a Valium, a Percocet,
Hmm.
or do you need an extraction?
Right.
And just stop what you're doing and stop and get a tourniquet and stop the bleeding right now. The only way you're going to do that is bringing sales and marketing and product marketing and HR at all to the same table.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And I like the analogy of the different pain solutions, because it's true.
Thanks.
And you bring up a good point too, because it's not always a pain point, but it's what you're solving. Is it I'm helping you get more efficient. I'm helping you reduce costs. I'm helping you reduce costs, improve efficiency, and drive revenue. But it's not always
Mhm.
a pain.
Absolutely.
And I've used the doctor analogy before as well, because you go in and you assess the situation, and then you can really customize, find where does it hurt the most. So I love that.
Thanks.
One of the challenges historically, though, is that sales and marketing have not been as aligned. Like, why do you think that has been, and where do you see that going?
I think it's because one speaks French and the other one speaks German.
True, true.
Right? And so right now it's kind of close enough that I can understand a few things. Like
Hmm.
I could order a beer and I could find the bathrooms, right?
Right.
But it's not enough to really have a true conversation. And it
Hmm.
all starts with the problem is they're both presenting to each other.
Right.
Instead of
Right.
having a conversation, they're giving presentations. And they're also trying to, again, sell each other on their ideas, whether it be,
Hmm.
we think that the first call pitch should look like this. We think that the competitive landscape looks like that. Sales says, when's the last time you went out and talked to someone out in the field?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
And we also get stuck in feelings. And what I mean is, and I always tell both folks, that both groups, when we come together, there are two things you cannot say in this meeting. You cannot say, I think or I feel, because nobody cares about either one of those. And it's only going to create a deeper and a wider gap between you. So
Hmm.
instead, here's what I see going on. Here's what I've seen work and or not work. Here's what is being asked for by our prospects and our customers. If you stay in that space, first of all, there are no feelings involved. There are no
Hmm.
emotions involved.
Yep.
It's just simply the data says and or the client or customer or prospect told us. And then you say, all right, I was out on the show floor. We were out doing a conference or a convention, and say, this was asked for several times. It could be, you know what? When our people get to, we love the first call pitch, but we get to slide 6 and it gets fuzzy or it creates problems.
Hmm.
Hello, marketing, product marketing. Could we pull that out or could we find a way to smooth that out? Then you say, all right, you go back to product management and say, I've talked to 10 prospects and 8 times they've asked for this. Can we get that moved up on the release cycle? Okay, great.
Yep.
Then you go back to sales and you say, you know what? Only 28% of people are hitting quota. Here's why. Because they can't do true discovery and qualification. They're having a problem doing objection handling.
Right.
So, marketing, could we work together to create maybe some role plays or create an accreditation as a stand and deliver so that everyone is messaging it on the same page and we're all singing from the same hymn? I know it sounds utopian, but frankly, over the years and 30 years, I was able to do that 6 times. So I know it can be done. And I don't think it's because I'm the smartest person on the planet. I think what happened is when you get sales and marketing together and you go back to the old adage of MQLs and SQLs, right? And you say, okay, marketing, we gave you so many leads. Says, yeah, but they all sucked. And you go back to marketing and you say, well, can you tell me what it should look like and what you're looking for? Rarely does that question get asked. As an enablement leader and as a fractional leader, that's literally the first question I ask. When we're talking about leads versus opportunities, right? First of all, do we have the same definition? Can you both tell me what they mean? And they normally look across the table and go, yeah, that's not what I thought it was at all. And you go, good. Now let's start at the root cause. And the problem is one is speaking French and one is speaking German. If you get past that, though, now the communication is in place. The next step is collaboration, right? Now it's how do we do this together? And what comes out of that is one word that terrifies a lot of people: accountability. Because now I'm being held to and I'm holding you to, whether it be a timeline, whether it be a deliverable, whether it be an asset. because in order to get to really help out your prospects and your customers, it has to get to that third piece, and that's orchestration. Right? You've got communication, you've got collaboration, now orchestration. And that's literally what enablement does. That is the sole goal of enablement, is literally to make sure you put those three pieces together and that everybody is at the table, everyone has a voice and a vote.
Hey everyone, it's me, Kerry Curran. If you're a B2B company that sells to marketers, whether you're an agency, MarTech, or AdTech, and your revenue is either flattening, declining, or just not growing fast enough, I can help. I've spent my entire career selling, marketing, and servicing marketers, so I know firsthand the challenges they face, the buying decisions they make, and what actually moves the needle. The truth is, most marketing strategies aren't built for revenue growth, but mine are. As your fractional Chief Growth Officer, I'll bring revenue-focused marketing strategies designed specifically for selling to marketers, deep expertise in agency, MarTech, and AdTech buying behaviors, modern go-to-market strategies that include everything from brand awareness to driving loyalty and retention, and a track record of doubling and even tripling revenue for B2B companies just like yours. So if you're tired of your stagnant results and you're ready to build a marketing engine that actually drives revenue, let's talk. Visit revenuebasedmarketing.com or connect with me on LinkedIn to schedule a consultation. Together, let's build a smarter, more profitable path forward. RBMA, Revenue-Based Marketing Advisors, where revenue-based marketing that works. You're so smart and you bring up so many good points.
Thank you so much.
Because the with the MQLs and SQLs and the lack of collaboration, there's no one North Star, right? Mm-hmm. Marketing's just heavily focused on MQLs. To your point, might not be the same criteria that then moves the MQLs to SQLs.
Absolutely.
And then there's no feedback loop there. And I've seen it actually. One of the teams I was hired in to help, sales, marketing and sales didn't talk to each other, but then they complained about each other. I'm like, you're grown-ups. The time for you to talk with each other. But and you'd think that would be obvious. But what I love too is that we're starting to see the framework of MQLs or the usage or the KPI of MQLs fade away, as to your point, you're getting to that one goal, that one North Star that where everyone's more accountable towards, and it's paddling in the same direction.
Love that. I wouldn't say we're rowing yet, but we're certainly got our hands in the water and we're trying to go in the same direction.
We can see the North Star. We can see
it. You can see it flickering out there. Well, you know what? I give a big kudo to AI for helping with that.
Yep.
And interestingly enough, it's kind of like for a while, I equate it to social media. Would you agree that social media made all of us less social?
I agree. Yes.
Now, I'm going to flip that on its ear. If it's done right, I think that AI will actually make us more human and have more conversations, as crazy as it sounds.
Yeah.
And I've got literally 6 ways that we can do this, right? Yeah. And the first is, let's go back to what we were talking about, which is streamlining lead scoring, right? If you were to use AI to prioritize leads on their likelihood to convert, I guarantee you it would allow sales to focus their efforts on just the most promising opportunities. And once we agreed on that, that volume will continue to grow. And it's like everything else. With competence comes confidence, and vice versa. With confidence comes competence, right? The next is, as we're all doing now, whether it be ChatGPT or others, automating task management. And that means all those repetitive things that we're doing, like, data entry, appointment selling, scheduling, follow-up emails, all the things that salespeople hate.
Yep.
We can now offload that, because I'm hearing that less than 30% of time is actually spent on selling and actually helping others out there. Now, if we take that off, then it frees up those sales reps to
Yep.
really focus on what I call those high value activities. Things
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I don't know, building relationships with prospects and actually closing deals,
Yep.
right?
And researching and
And researching
and
and how
having
about
time
pre-call
to
planning?
prepare. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
pre-call planning. There's an
Yeah.
interesting topic that we could talk about forever.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
the
No,
next one
it's so
is
true.
literally around analytics, and I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
real-time analytics, right? If, especially on the marketing side, if you could marketing and ops jointly, let's add
Mm-hmm.
them into this boat that we're rowing with too, right? And then co-jointly, we could provide those sales reps
Mm-hmm.
with real-time analytics and insights around their sales activities, um, around their funnel and deal velocity, things of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
And what
Mm-hmm.
that'll do is literally improve performance, and we get away from I think and I feel again, and everything
Yep.
becomes a data driven decision.
Yep. Yeah.
The
So
next
smart.
one is the critical one, and that's personalized sales coaching. For as many leaders as I talk to on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, I'm going to make a bold blanket statement. Most sales leaders don't know how to coach. They're
Yep.
either trying to coach the way that they did, which is outdated, no longer works, or they're trying to peanut butter across their entire team. What if we could leverage, again, co-jointly as, and we'll call it the go-to-market team from for here forward, right?
Yep.
What if we were able to provide personalized coaching to sales reps through the leaders based on their individual strengths and weaknesses by
Yep.
analyzing things like their emails, their calls, and their meetings, and then working with the sales leaders to actually teach them how to lead instead of just, excuse me, to lead instead of just managing and
Yep.
go to a whole nother level. And that then translates into faster and bigger deals closing.
Yep.
The
I
next one's
agree. Yeah.
around that efficiency in the sales process, utilizing AI to create proposals, contracts, and other sales documents that would then allow the reps to spend more time helping by automating and streamlining the processes that are in place, and then reducing the time and the effort that's required to close deals because they're not going all the way down the rabbit hole to find out that this isn't a fit. Let's
Right.
cut bait
Right.
early. And that way
Mm-hmm.
you can focus on deals that will literally move with prospects and customers where they really need your expertise. And the final piece is, and we don't want to leave out, which often gets left out, which is customer success on the back end, right? And that's working with them as part of the go to market team again to utilize not just AI driven chatbots and virtual assistants, but that they can actually handle those basic customer inquiries. And that'll
Mm-hmm.
free up the CSM now to focus on those complex strategic tasks because we're not asking them to sell. We're asking them to do cross sell, upsell, renewal, which is actually new to them, right? Because for the
Yep.
longest, they were
Yes.
just about renewals. So
Yes.
they've
Yes.
never really been taught how to handle cross sell, upsell.
Mm-hmm.
But the upside is it's really not a sale, it's a resale because it's a warm, friendly. And it also will stop CSMs from being, and we've all seen it, Kerry, 90 days before the renewal. You're my best friend now. Where have you been
Yes.
for 2
Yes.
years?
Yes.
Right. And so I
Yep.
think the more we start connecting those dots of sales, marketing, and all the other components of the go to market team, guess who wins? Prospects and customers.
Yep.
Guess who wins? The
They're
company,
helping them.
because
Yep.
revenue goes up. Guess who wins?
Mm-hmm.
You, because you get bonuses now, right?
Yep.
And all the
Yep.
other pieces that come in, whether it be an increase, spiffs or whatever it is for the sales folks on the marketing side. It's that, bump that you get later across, right? You've got your MBO. Oh, I hit it. Great. Now I've got a bonus coming.
Yep. Yeah. No,
But at the
this is
same time, you're
so
building
smart. Yep.
customers for life from the very
Mm-hmm.
beginning,
Yep.
not just putting that weight on the shoulders of CSMs.
Yep. No, I love that. And so much of
Is that
the
helpful?
yes, super helpful. And one of the things I love that you touched on customer success, because one of the aspects I love about go to market strategies is that it does include the lifetime value and the
Absolutely.
upsell and renewal piece. And I know, having been in my various roles, that sometimes they're just like, oh, well, their client services, they don't know how to sell. But to your point, if we can help coach them, equip them, make them comfortable, it goes a very long way.
They become the lifeblood, right?
Yeah.
Because you do need net new, but at the same time, if sales on the front end builds this big, beautiful home with a short hallway and people are tripped out of the back, what use
Yep.
is that?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I won't even get into the stats. You've done it, of what it takes to go and get a new customer win back versus just simply being human and helping.
Yep. I love that. And well, that leads me to my next question, or point I wanted you to share on, because one of the parts of your strategy, and again, your presentation, is about the importance of EQ and emotional intelligence. So can you just talk about that, and why it's so important?
Yeah, I think it comes down to a simple thing, and that is AI can provide content
Hmm.
for years beyond all of us,
Yeah.
right? It'll give you vast amounts of data and information, no question there. But it still requires a human to provide context
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
now. I'm not saying it's going
For
to be
now.
forever, but for now, right?
Right.
So
Right.
you take all of that, and it's kind of like, and I love analogy. So it's like building a gumbo, right? You put a little sprinkle here, a little season to that. So you put in the content from AI.
Hmm.
Then you've got the human piece of interpretation, right? And that's adding in and understanding all of that generated content of how to get it to the right person or company at the right time, in the
Hmm.
right language,
Yep.
at the right timing. And what do you get? You get a balanced approach, right? Of
Hmm.
combining the IQ plus the EQ plus the AI. You take all of that and it leads to just ridiculously optimal results if you do it right.
Yep. I love that. And I love every aspect and kind of stage of your process, Roderick, is so valuable. I know your
Thank you.
clients are lucky to work with you. And
Thank
so
you
for
so
the
much.
people who are listening and they're thinking, yes, I need this, like what's the kind of baseline readiness, or how do people get started with getting more smarter about integrating sales and marketing and using AI?
Well, there's two things. One, it starts with reaching out, whether it be on LinkedIn, social media, or on my website, and setting up first and foremost a simple conversation, right? And it's really trying to understand, where are you, where have you been, where are you trying to go, and at the end of the day, what does success look like? And my
Hmm.
question is always, success for who?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Which leads to the next step, which is an assessment. And I want to talk to every part of the go to market team, because not only do you have French and German, you've got Dutch, and you've got you name it, right? Spanish,
Yeah.
etc. Now I have to become the translator of dialects and languages. And that
Hmm.
is, well, this is what they said, but this is what they meant, and this is what they meant, but this is what they really need. Which leads to the third piece, and that is, a lot of times when I start with clients right away, they have an idea of what is quote unquote broken. I'm not looking
Yeah.
for what's broken.
Yeah.
Right. I'm looking for, what have you tried? What has worked? What hasn't
Yeah.
worked? And I'm trying to get to the root cause of why or why not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I said it in this tweet that you saw. I become that 3 or 4 year old. But why? But why? But why?
Yeah.
But why?
Hmm.
Right. And the more
Yeah.
you do that, the more frustrating it gets. And I'm honest
Hmm.
about it. But to your point, that's the only way we can become a GTM team North Star,
Yeah.
and make sure
Yeah.
that we're all following in the same direction, and we're all rowing, and we're not just kind of spinning around out in the middle
Hmm.
of nowhere. So it
Yeah.
starts with an assessment.
I love that. And just one other point is that sometimes things didn't work, quote unquote, because they didn't
Sorry.
have the right KPI, or they weren't looking at it in the right perspective. And I think the way you dig in really must be so valuable to help. Well, that did work. It's just you were that strategy, that upper funnel awareness strategy, it did work. You were just expecting it to drive leads this month. it takes longer. So it's so much of getting to the root of it. And I love that approach.
It's just common vernacular. And it's also, Kerry,
Yeah.
making sure that each one of them has a different set of KPIs, right? If I'm talking to sales, I'm going to talk about average deal size, deal velocity, new pipeline, quota attainment, win rates, right? But if I'm talking to, let's say, a sales engineering leader, they don't care about those.
Yeah.
They care about number of demos per deal, number of wins and losses, number of POCs. If I go and I'm talking to customer success, they're going to look at me like I have three heads if I start talking about those. Instead, they want to talk about adoption rates and customer churn and lifetime value and CSAT and net promoter score and red account reduction. So my job is to, one, like I said, set the bar of where the North Star is, but talk to them in their language, not enablement ease.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's sales ease, sometimes it's marketing ease, right? And I always have to set the bar of, assume I know nothing about any of your jobs, so don't use your acronyms. Explain what they mean.
Yeah.
Because, and in 30 years, I remember there were a couple things, 12 different times the same acronym meant something different at every company.
Yep. I believe
and so get away from that and start trying to find more commonality than, disagreement. And you realize you bring that wall down, you take that mask off, and you realize at the end of the day, we're all working towards the same thing. And that is new, long-term, happy customers for life.
Yep. Thank you. I love this, Roderick. So how do people find you?
It's funny. I always say, if you can't find me on social media, you are not trying to find me at all. You can find me at my website at roderickjefferson.com. And you can also find my book and the upcoming book, Sales 3.0, the companion workbook that goes along with it. You can find me on LinkedIn at Roderick Jefferson, and Instagram and Threads, Roderick_J_associate, and on YouTube, Roderick Jefferson. And if you're on Blue Sky, at The Voice of Rod.
Excellent. Well, I will make sure to have all of that in the show notes, because I'm sure this is going to make your phone ring. So thank you so much.
Let's dance.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Roderick. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. I know it was valuable for me, and I'm sure for the audience as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Again, this was an absolute honor, and thanks that we got a chance to reconnect, Kerry.
For sure. Thank you.
Take care all.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're struggling with flat or slowing revenue growth, you are not alone. That's why Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, brings you expert insights, actionable strategies, and real-world success stories to help you scale faster. So if you're serious about growth, search for us in your favorite podcast directory. Hit follow, subscribe, and drop a 5-star rating. It helps us keep the game-changing content coming. New episodes drop regularly. Don't let your revenue growth strategy fall behind. We'll see you soon.